What is the unsolved natural phenomenon, the mysterious hum sound, the Taos hum? Where has it been heard? How dangerous can a humming be? Is it possible for a hum to drive you mad? In which countries is the Taos hum heard? Why can't scientists find the cause of the mysterious sound? Today we are going to talk about an unsolved natural phenomenon, the hum, or Taos hum, as it is commonly known. What sound bothers you the most? Is it mouth smacking, coughing, loud music, or squeaking? If you've ever heard the Taos hum, your answer to that question would probably be that mysterious sound. Imagine lying peacefully in your bed at night, about to enter the sweetest part of sleep, when a low hum begins to scratch your ears. Even if you look all over the house, warn your neighbors, cover your ears, you can neither get rid of the noise nor find out where it is coming from. Imagine that the buzzing, which gets louder by the second, causes headaches, insomnia, and nosebleeds. Imagine that the sound goes on for days and can never be stopped. Isn't it possible to go crazy? This noise, too disturbing to contemplate, describes the Taos hum that has made life miserable for hundreds of thousands of people, caused the evacuation of a city, and displaced thousands more. Since the 1950s, people in many different parts of the world have reported disturbing buzzing noises that seem to come from nowhere. Some describe the sound as a throbbing, others as a rumbling. The general consensus was that this mysterious sound was similar to the sound of a diesel engine. The other commonalities of these reports were that it was heard more at night than during the day, that it was heard in enclosed spaces, and that it was more common in rural areas. This mysterious humming, the cause of which cannot be found, continues to make life unbearable. Don't worry, we've got all the known facts and conspiracy theories about this mysterious humming in our video. Have you ever heard of the Taos area? Taos, a 1,000-year-old Native American settlement in the U.S. state of New Mexico, is known around the world despite its population of only about 35,000 people. In addition to Taos in America, similar reports came from Largs in Scotland and Bristol in England. In the years that followed, the howling was heard in more places and by more people. This mysterious hum has given rise to many conspiracy theories. Let's take a closer look at the chronology of this buzzing, which has caused physical and psychological problems for many people. In the late 1950s, about 2,000 people in the United Kingdom complained of a buzzing sound. These recorded complaints were confirmed by a report in 1995. In the 1980s, similar complaints began to increase in the Scottish town of Largs. Thousands of people living in the coastal town began to be disturbed by the mysterious noise. In the 90s, the same problem arose, this time in New Mexico, USA. The sound, which began as a piano hum, was recorded at 66 Hz. Many people were treated at the University of New Mexico for this sound, called the Taos hum. In '99, this time it was the town of Kokomo, Indiana in the United States where the sound was heard. The mysterious hum sent 100 people to the hospital with complaints of joint pain, nausea, diarrhea, and fatigue. The city council set out to investigate the cause of the humming. No final conclusion was reached. It was suggested that chemical sensitization and geomagnetic phenomena could cause the humming. The town was evacuated in 2003. However, people who returned to the town years later continued to hear the Taos hum. In 2008, the Taos howl was heard again, this time in the Canadian province of Alberta. In Calgary, a city of over 1 million people, about 20% of the population was adversely affected by the sound. The humming nuisance reappeared in 2012, this time in Kerry, Ireland. Later, similar humming complaints were recorded in Seattle, Washington and Wellington, New Zealand. So what was causing this humming that was making life a living hell in many different parts of the world? In Bristol, the humming was attributed to 24-hour factories and vehicle traffic. Years of research and investigation in the state of New Mexico had yielded no results. The fact that plugging the ear did not stop the humming also led to the belief that the sounds were not airborne. One group of researchers suggested that the humming was caused by electromagnetic waves emitted at a very low frequency. According to the researchers, people could perceive these low-frequency waves as humming. This theory has not been proven. Jean-Pierre Street Maurice, a professor of physics at the University of Saskatchewan, suggested that the sounds were electromagnetic noise picked up by auroras and radiation belts. David Deming, a geoscientist at the University of Oklahoma, said the source of the sounds could be telephone transmissions and aircraft used by the U.S. Navy to communicate with submarines. Many conspiracy theories have been proposed about the humming, the cause of which has never been found. The most common is that the sounds were sent to Earth by extraterrestrials, and that the hum was caused by signals that only some people could hear. Researchers are confident that this theory is not true. Another theory is that the humming is caused by ocean waves and seismic activity caused by tectonic plates. It has also been suggested that military experiments and submarine communications may also be causing the humming. Although scientists have not reached a definitive conclusion, they believe that heating equipment, power lines, communications equipment, and high-pressure gas lines in industrial areas may be the main causes of the mysterious sound. For more than 50 years, research has been conducted in various parts of the world, but the mystery of these mysterious humming noises has still not been solved. Unfortunately, it seems unlikely that a definitive conclusion will be reached any time soon. What do you think? What do you think is the cause of the Taos humming that has made the lives of hundreds of thousands of people miserable?
Today, we are going to an island that looks like a cute island from afar, but where people are being burned alive and cruel experiments are being carried out on sound people for the purpose of curing the insane. The island of Poveglia, located in Italy with its Mediterranean climate, millions of tourists it hosts every year, nightlife, music and cute houses, actually resembles a beautiful holiday resort from afar. When a person sees this island from afar, he gets the feeling of a very nice holiday is made on this island. But the other name of this lovely island is Plague Island. About 160,000 people caught in the plague between 1793 and 1814 have been quarantined on the island of Plague, Italy. You will get more terrible feelings than the scariest movie you have ever watched or a thriller novel that makes you shudder even while turning its pages. The mass graves still found on the Plague Island, although undesirable, add an air of tension to the island. It is said that there are very strange energies here. The Plague Island actually covers a small area. In the Plague Island of Poveglia, which had a very frightening history, where it was hard to tell in words, things were actually going very well. However, Tourists and merchants who came to this island by ship from Europe also caused a plague epidemic to come here. The plague has grown to a very serious extent, and the entire island has been quarantined. At that time, all the patients in the surrounding cities and countries that had plague were sent here, and the island literally became a horror movie set. Because there was no cure for plague at that time. Since there was no cure or medication, everyone had to wait for death. In order for you to be brought to the plague island, you didn't need to show any clear symptoms either. A fear had surrounded all of humanity, just as it is these days. Any elderly, women and children suspected of being sick were sent to this island regardless of whether they were sick or not and left for dead. People seemed to be left to die in a dungeon. Nobody had anywhere to run. Everyone waited desperately for death on this island. About 160,000 plague patients are waiting for death on this island, and also mental patients have been added to them. Mental patients in Italy and in surrounding countries also began to be sent to this island. On the island, both plague patients and mental patients shared the same fate. And what is done to the patients brought to the island is much scarier than the whole scenarios. According to the information contained in written sources, since there was no advanced medicine, knowledgeable doctors and endless medicine options at that time, people with plague were burned en masse in a large fire. To prevent this recurring disease, cremation has continued for many years, with those caught in the plague being repatriated to this island. The burning of the island's 160,000 people alive, unfortunately, did not bring an end to the plague. After 160,000 plague patients who were brutally slaughtered, a plague epidemic was also observed in thousands of people living outside the island at that time. In this case, as a precaution, plague doctors were assigned to take care of only patients with plague. Today, just like the health workers who took care of the coronavirus patients in the pandemic hospitals, plague doctors took part in this hellfire. Just as doctors involved in the fight against the coronavirus are dressed today, many years ago, special and somewhat scary-looking clothes were designed that duty doctors working on the plague island should wear to protect themselves from the plague. It is alleged that these doctors, who were treating the plague at the time, wore beak-shaped masks with fine scent on the tips. The reason for this smell thing is so different. Can you guess why these beaked costumes are spreading a nice smell around? Yeah, that's because the doctors thought that in those years, they could beat the plague with a good smell. But another claim was that the plague corpses, found all over the island, were spreading unbearable scent. When the doctors on the island of plague found it difficult to tolerate these smells, the designers added a fragrance section to the beak section of the costumes. By smelling these beautiful smells instead of corpse smells, the doctors were able to continue their work and not move their minds. The doctors did not lose their minds, but this plague island was also used as a mental hospital in those years, and many patients who lost their minds were brought to the same environment as patients with the plague. There's another thing that's even scarier. A mental hospital was built on Plague Island in 1992. The doctors working at the mental hospital committed terrible tortures on the patients, causing the death of the patients. Unfortunately, it is also confirmed by powerful sources that a doctor on the island of Poveglia, who converted to a mental hospital in 1992, was experimenting with a form of torture, in the name of treating all mentally ill people. A doctor who conducts an experiment called lobotomy on mentally ill patients takes out the part located in the frontal lobe of psychological patients' brains. The surgical treatment that took place turned into torture rather than treatment, causing many people to die. It is said that the murderous doctor conducted his experiments in a bell tower located on the island. Another claim is that the doctor, who had been conducting these brutal experiments on the mentally ill for years, was completely out of his mind as he began to see the ghosts of the patients he had killed. And one day, he went up to the bell tower, and mysteriously fell and died. According to the autopsy findings, it wasn't the fall from the bell tower that killed him. The possibility that a cloud of mist would drown him after he fell is among the rumors of this mysterious island. But the scarier part is that other doctors who witnessed this incident believe that it was the ghosts of deceased patients who killed him. The police of that period found the body of the doctor who fell from the bell tower in burns. According to the doctor's autopsy, it is still not known exactly how he died. Italian fishermen don't even fish near Plague Island these days. The impact of the strange events that have taken place on the island for decades has reached to the present day. The island is so clear, so desolate and so horrible that no one dares go, because there's still bone residue left over from the bodies on the island. How convincing this place is debatable. Those who have dared to visit the island in recent years have heard voices on the island saying, "Go and never come back." Also, the same people were hearing bells on the island, even though there was no one in the bell tower. In Italy in 2014, Italians opposed the sale of the island of Plague, which the government auctioned on the internet to raise revenue for the state coffers. The local people did not want this island to be turned into a luxury resort. The people of the island even considered raising money to keep the Plague Island from being sold and buying the island for themselves. Would you like to go to this island and wander around for a few days? Today, you will watch the world's most secretive person, Adolf Hitler, the horrible hospital he was treated for, and Hitler's life full of secrets. A very famous movie was also shot in this hospital. We will ask a special question to our valued viewers who watch this episode. Please think, how many photos do you have of your baby years? Look at a family album. Even take a look at your posts that you make by typing "throwback" on Thursdays and your social media account. Yeah, while you're thinking about it, let's get one single baby picture of Hitler on screen. Adolf Hitler, born in Austria on April 20, 1889, has only one baby picture. According to rumor, all Hitler's baby photos were gone in a house fire, only this frame of the picture remained. It's too bad that a person only has one baby photo, isn't it? Hitler, who lived for 56 years, had to make do with just one baby photo. Perhaps his infancy, his childhood, and his youth were reflected in his behavior in the years to come, even the brutal decisions he made. Hitler, who was born in Austria, was a very unsuccessful student in his secondary school years. He was a student who was constantly scolded by his teachers, could not do his homework properly, and his memorization was very bad. Historians and researchers say that for this reason Hitler gave himself to painting during his middle school years, trying to express his feelings that he could not explain with pictures. I mean, Hitler, who had one baby photo, actually wanted to take the pain out of the baby photo by making dozens of paintings, who knows? During his junior high school years, Hitler actually wanted to become a painter, so he quit school and just started drawing. At the age of 17, he was impressed with artistic activities in Vienna and particularly the magical buildings in Vienna. Although he wanted to become a painter in Vienna, his paintings were not accepted and he gave up being a painter. Among the dictators of the 20th century, Adolf Hitler was involved in a number of scandals in his political and military background. In his ups and downs life, he was full of secrets. Hitler gained strength from the Great Depression in Germany after World War I. However, his body could not withstand both war and the rapid pace of politics. The famous dictator was treated in this hospital in southern Berlin, Germany, during World War I. The hospital named Belitz, Heilstatten was built in 1898. In fact, the hospital was used to treat soldiers injured during World War I. Adolf Hitler had been treated at this hospital twice for wounds to his leg during the Battle of the Somme in 1916. Only rusty beds from those years, buildings covered with vine leaves, and over the years, the corridors, painted with graffiti, and the secrets remained. Surrounded by a vast forest, the building was not actually only used for patient treatment. The hospital had a butcher's office, a post office, a restaurant, a bakery, and even its own power station. And tuberculosis patients were being treated there. This building, which was used for about 100 years, has today become a ruin. The walls were scrawled with visitors' writings. Those who came here wrote their own names and messages on the walls. After the building was deserted, nothing in particular was touched. In some of the rooms, the curtains are still hanging. It is said that in these rooms, Hitler wanders from time to time. The hospital's operating rooms still contain the medical equipment and surgical supplies from that period. In some rooms, you can oddly see a piano or a bathtub. I wonder if Hitler brought the piano here. In 2013, a photographer broke in by breaking the padlocks of the building without permission from the German administration and photographed the terrible landscape with great courage. It became clear years later that the hospital was closed for some interesting reason. At that time, in fact, this reason was tried to be hidden. In 1950, experiments were carried out on patients, including insulin shock therapy, leucotomy and lobotomy. In experiments conducted in Germany without anyone's knowledge, nothing more could be done than to disrupt the mental health of patients. Upon learning of this situation, the title of the hospital was removed. However, the decision was made to close the hospital because it is still continuing these experiments. Although the hospital was closed down, it is still allegedly endangering the environment. Thousands of disease-carrying flies have nested here these days. That's why people aren't actually brought close to this building. Millions of flies nesting in the hospital can infect people with diseases. Hitler also found health in this hospital in Berlin, but Hitler's death was not as ordinary as his life story. Hitler became completely despondent after the war when Germany's defeat became certain. While the calendars showed April 30th, 1945, he and his wife Eva Braun in Berlin decided to commit suicide. Take a detailed look at this dramatic situation in written sources, how it is mentioned. Hitler and his wife locked themselves up in a room. First, his wife Eva Braun bites a capsule containing cyanide and the poison takes effect within seconds, and then Hitler bites a cyanide capsule and simultaneously shoots with a pistol to the right side of his head. At his own volition, in the Führerbunker garden, their corpses are placed in a pit caused by bombs and burned by gasoline. It is claimed that the reason Hitler wanted this was because he did not want to be captured and exposed by the Soviet army. Before committing suicide, he told his generals, "You must never give my body to the Russians, they will make me a statue in Moscow." Maybe Hitler's corpse did not fall into the hands of the Russians, but the hospital where Hitler was treated fell into the hands of the Russians. After the Second World War, when many buildings in Berlin were bombed, this hospital fell into the hands of the Soviet administration. It was used as a military hospital until the Soviets left Germany in 1990. Finally, in 2000, the hospital was completely closed and abandoned. So in this very comfortable to enter complex, we got security breaches, and then some parts of it were nailed down with boards. In the building that became a ghost town, the Oscar-winning films Pianist and Operation, starring Tom Cruise, has been taken. You especially remember that dramatic scene of the Pianist movie, don't you?